Welcome to Imagineering Creativity in Your Life, in Your Work, and Moving Up instead of just on. My first guest today is Danny John Mageean. He's a broadcasting student from New Zealand. He's very creative. He does the Free Lunch podcast. It's on iTunes. Please go look it up. It is absolutely phenomenal. Danny, welcome, and thank you for doing it.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm really interested to start talking about just creativity in general. And yeah, I really like what you're doing here. Can't wait to see where it goes.
Me too. I have no idea where it's going to go, but that doesn't stop you from doing anything. How did you get into broadcasting? I mean, I know I've known you for many years now. I think you were like 8 when you showed up at my door. But
that's right. Yeah.
And you know, you've been into writing, and you're a voracious reader. You are very insightful. You are very spontaneous and fluent, and so broadcasting seemed like a perfect fit for you. So, how did you get into that?
Yeah, it's funny how I got into it. So there were a multitude of reasons. I went into journalism and did a 6-month certificate in that, passed, but I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't like what we were doing. I was doing articles about roadworks in my local town, and this was just boring the absolute hell out of me. So I decided, and I just went into that because I needed something to do. I'd been working for a year after leaving high school, and I thought, no, I need to do something. So I did this course, didn't like it, but the class next to me, I'd become friends with them, and they were broadcasting students. They were radio guys, and they looked like they were having a blast. And so I looked up what this course had, and I saw that one of the modules on it was podcasting. And I love podcasts. And so there was the reason where they were sort of having fun, but I love podcasts as well. And as a matter of fact, it was kind of you who introduced me to podcasts and what they were. Because I remember years and years ago, you were listening to a podcast about a book series that the two of us mutually enjoy, the Dresden Files.
The Dresden Files,
the Butcher's Block or something like that.
Yeah, Butcher's Block, right.
And I remember you. I remember you listening to that, and I was like, "What the hell's a podcast?" Didn't get into it for years afterwards, but it sort of planted that seed of like, that's an interesting sort of thing. Then I realized it's basically a radio show, and so I thought, well, I like listening to podcasts, so I want to go in and do podcasts. And it's funnily enough, because I was like, I hope that's the first thing we do. And it was the last module that we did. And I'm still doing it currently. That's what the Free Lunch podcast is. It's for school. But I'm glad that it's the last one, because all of the skills that I've worked up over the last year and a half of studying broadcasting, they're really contributing to like the clean edits and the content and the stuff that I really am enjoying doing. And like I've said to so many people at the moment, like, this is the happiest I've been in so long, because I'm doing something that I'm passionate about, something that I love. So that's sort of the long story of how I got into broadcasting, how I got here to where I'm doing this sort of thing that I'm really enjoying.
And that's fascinating, because what you're saying now is everything. I was just recently at our Professional Speakers Association of Namibia, our conference, and the one person, Paul Terwijl, he's from the Netherlands, and he said, you know what, happiness makes you money. If you are willing to put in your time, and if you're willing to stay true to your core values, and you want to have fun, and you want to be happy, then it's going to make you money. And the second one was Shirley Taylor. You know, she's a brilliant speaker, and she's the current president of the Global Speakers Federation. And she was about connecting the dots, you know, about people in your life, planting little seeds. And those little seeds grow into something wonderful where you act on it, and it takes you to so many different places. And so I'm really thankful to have contributed to the amazingness that you are now.
Hey, it was awesome. It was just, I was thinking today, after you messaged me saying, hey, can I interview you? I was like, oh, sure. It's been ages since I've talked to Brant. And then I was thinking, he's probably going to ask you about podcasting. So, and he was kind of part of that, just a little bit, you know, and it was years afterwards that I was looking for something to sort of listen to or do. And then I just checked that out. Just at the Butcher's Block, and I was re-listening to it. I was like, oh, this is funny. It's an interview with Jim Butcher. This is kind of cool. And then I started looking up other podcasts like about video games, which I'm really into, or fiction or movies or whatever. I was like, this is fantastic. And what I'm doing is a little different to the stuff I usually listen to. I listen to like interviews and like conversational podcasts, but I'm currently doing almost like an audio essay sort of thing, where it's more like the theme stays the same, and we can get into that later, sort of what the freelance podcast is. But it changes a little bit every time, but I really sort of want to keep the message the same in the entire thing. And yeah, so thanks so much for, I guess, inadvertently getting me into this, you know?
That's the thing. You'd never know what sort of impact you make on someone until it's done. And, you know, I remember the long drives to Paraprime, you know, picking you up, having a chocochino on the way back, you know, just epic times.
I remember that so much. And I also remember, like, taking some of the first sparks of creativity from you as well. Because me, you, and my dad, because you're my dad's flatmate, we're driving back to the hut, and you know, you're talking to me about whatever, whether it's Doctor Who, Dragon Ball Z, whatever video games come out, anything. And then sort of like, I think in the last half of that sort of time that you were like around Dad and stuff, you were writing as well. And so you would be like, hey, I've got like a new chapter of my book or what I'm writing, and I'm listening to you sort of storylines and stuff. And I was like, this guy's actually taking his creativity and doing something with it. Well, you know, it's hard yakka writing a book. You're still doing it, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I remember how I basically shoved chapters of the first book into your hand and said, hey, read this. No one else wants to. Give me some feedback. And you know, just sparking that sort of creative need inside of myself and exploring it with someone else was just the best. And I think
it's nice.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really grateful for all the dots, as Shirley would say, that guided me through my past experiences, and meeting you was just a very big part of that. So how do you use your paradigm shifts to help you explore in, let's say, the free podcast, the free lunch podcast? How do you change your perspective to sort of help you generate new ideas, come up with new content?
Well, it's kind of like it's a way. It's a similar because so the third episode, which is coming out next week, is I interviewed an artist and you know, a good friend of mine, and the way that she was talking about how she got inspired with art, it kind of reminded me of how I get inspired with like a podcast idea. So it's just a spark. It's something, whether I'm watching a movie or reading something, or I hear a word, or I listen to a song and I go, oh, there's something there. And like, it could be like, but it sort of hits me, and suddenly I'm, you know, coming up with these ideas. And so like the first one, for instance, I was procrastinating with the final assessment of before the podcasting module, and then I was like, procrastination, I should totally do an episode on procrastination. That's going to be my first episode. The second episode, Stephen Hawking had recently passed.
Right.
Rest in peace. Dedicated person, and such an inspirational person. And I was like, I want to do something on him, but I want to do it differently. I want to do a story as opposed to an audio essay on him, which is why I told it differently. So that's how I change my life. That's how I sort of get my ideas. And every episode, I feel like I'm changing just a little bit. I'm learning what it's like to be working on something that I'm so passionate about. And so it's like, I think I said this in the first episode, or I think I say it at the beginning of every episode, but this is a therapy for me. It's me. It's suddenly I'm doing something I'm passionate about, and you know, I'm getting more and more drive as I go further along. And eventually, I don't know where I'm going to go from here, but you're seeing me change every single episode.
But it's about growth. I recently talked to someone that did their doctorate, and they said that so many people, they go through this process of writing a master's and doing the doctorate and the thesis and all that stuff. And they started off with being really passionate about it. But because of all the pressure and the need and the drive to get it done, they tend to lose interest. And then they're stuck basically for the rest of their life in a career that's not making them happy. And so I'm really glad that what you're doing is fun, you're learning from it, and you're growing still. And that's the thing, you need to keep on growing. Otherwise, as the Romans say, expand or die, you know, or they used to say, I don't know if they say it anymore, but it's about changing. It's about, sorry, hang on. It's about continuously changing, you know, it's continuously growing. I love the secret.
Yeah, growth is important for sure.
I love the secret reveal of Stephen Hawking in the episode. You know, he took us through his life.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, that is Stephen Hawking, you know, and it's like, wow, I didn't know any of that. I just know him as the genius, you know, that he was, not the origins. And so
he was this sort of like weird, kind of like, he didn't know how to read until he was 8 years old. His dad was like, you can't go to Cambridge, which is where he's famous for going. And I was like, how can I make this a little bit different? So I was like, and also just a bit humorous as well, which is why instead of this episode is about Stephen Hawking, the title is, this is the inspirational story of Steve, which is just the most generic name you could ever have, Steve.
Because I thought this was made up.
Fantastic, put that there.
I thought this was made up.
Oh, right.
It was just like, Steve, it's like, you know, Bob, you know, or Chuck, you know, some sort of random name for a bloke.
Chuck.
You know, this is the story of Chuck, you know.
Gary.
I just loved it. I loved how you changed it. You saw the same thing as everybody else, but you decided to shift it, to make it better for you. And not enough people do that, I think. Not enough people are willing to change the things around them or just look at things differently.
Well, I was thinking to myself, what do I want to listen to? And I was thinking about other podcasts. So I don't know if you've listened to Serial or S-Town by NPR. And they're the story about, so Serial is about a murder that happened in some town in, I think, is it New York or California? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. And the way they tell the story and sort of like investigate it is, but S-Town especially, which is, it's about this place, and it stands for Shit Town. It's this tiny little place, you know, in the backwater of some crappy state, wherever. And this guy who was like kind of insane, and he thought there was this big conspiracy going on. And the sort of the way that the podcast tells you, oh, there's this big conspiracy, you find out it's mainly a story about this man who was just so strange, and like somewhere on the spectrum. He was super intelligent, but he talked like this. And, you know, he had all these weird side projects and stuff. Super interesting guy. And I was like, so they sort of shifted it. They changed it. And I love a good plot twist. I love Shyamalan. So I was like, I've got to get, you know, something in here that just makes this interesting to listen to. So that's why I was like, I know, inspirational story of Steve. I won't call him Stephen Hawking in the first half. In the second half, when we get serious, talk about ALS, motor neurones disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, then I can fully get into him and what makes him so inspirational.
Finding a pivotal moment in your life to say, this is where I want to be, this is who I want to be, this is where I want to go. And always be willing to change. And I think that's very important. So I think congratulations are all. So Daniel, thank you for so thank you for doing this. Thank you for agreeing to this.
Oh,
and
it's been a pleasure, man.
Have you an interview again where we can maybe spitball some ideas of some other people.
Yeah, hopefully that'd be awesome.
Then thank you for this episode of Imagineering. And please go listen to his podcast. It's the Free Lunch Podcast, Danny Mageean. It is available on iTunes. Go listen to it. You will not regret it. Cheers, brother.